Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first technical session of the 4th Higher Education Summit and 6th Foundation Day of CEGR. The theme of the first technical session is Ways of Creating India as a Research Hub. On this pretext, I call upon Professor Jitendra Das, Director-FORE School of Management, for his address.
The theme which has been given to us for this particular session is titled Ways of Creating India as Research Hub. So let's be focused on this. So what we are planning to discuss, what is supposed to be discussing here is how do we do things such that India becomes a research hub. While thinking about this and wanting to share some thoughts on this, I, sitting here, recollected a movie, Hindi movie from Mumbai or Bollywood, which was released sometime in the mid-80s, around that time. And some of people in my age group may be able to recollect. The movie's name was Ek Doctor Ki Maut. In English, it means a doctor's death, right? And this movie was all about a research scholar who's, I'm not sure, he was actually a medical doctor or a researcher, but he was a guy who was supposed to be working on a particular research project assigned to him in the office, wherever he was working in a government research lab. So he was doing it excellently well. But at the same time, because he was intelligent, he was creative, in his pastime, he was working on some other research agenda. And as a result, while he finished his assigned task, he was able to do a lot of other work which got published. He got a lot of accolades nationally that he has done such a great job. His boss, the maybe director, I'm also director, didn't like it. And then he, in his entire movie now revolves around this, that the director issued him a show cause notice for wasting an office time and called for an explanation. And he was getting harassed, and then, he was suspended, the salary stopped and all that. Ultimately, this guy commits suicide, right? So this was the research agenda that was depicted in that movie, wherein you do not want anybody to be creative. You don't want anybody to be at efficient best. You want people to work like a clerk. You want people to work like a slave, that I give you a task and you do this. Now that was in the mid-80s, around that time. Because at that point of time, this was being visible, people are seeing it in the universities, in research labs. So therefore, somebody thinks about it and comes up with a movie. That's how movies are made. You see a social issue and make a movie. Today, situation may actually be worse. Okay? We have not changed. I'll give an example. Very recently, the government of India has announced we'll pick up 20 universities to give them freedom for excellence. Now, Dr. Agarwal said that research is a pull agenda. A national excellence is a pull agenda. You identify me that you must excel in your life. If I don't want to excel, whatever item, protein and things you feed me, tablets you feed me, I will never excel. Okay, because it's a pull agenda. You cannot push. Now, what the government has done, they have identified 10 universities. There's a 10 from private, 10 from the government, and will give them a lot of money. 10,000 crores. 1 crore is 1 billion is 100 crores. Okay. So 10,000 crore would be 100 billion rupees have been assigned for this task. It's been announced and it's being rolled out. 10 plus 10, and I think private is only 2 and 18 are government, have been assigned for national excellence to compete internationally. Now it is something like, the way I see it, you want to feed someone who's not hungry, right? And those who are hungry, you are ignoring them. So if I want to excel, I have no opportunity. You don't want to excel. I tell you, please excel. I give you nice clothes and I'll give you a lot of protein, a lot of milk, a lot of Horlicks and everything. This is what is happening. How can excellence happen? Right? But this is a very good initiative considering the fact that there is absolutely nothing. Actually, we have these 10, 20 universities who have the resources. Only 10 years down the line, we may be sitting here in a conference to analyze what happened. If it worked out excellently well, we'll be very lucky and happy. If it didn't work out, then we can have same agenda saying that why we are trying to feed someone who's not hungry. right? Now, I'll give you my background, why, so that you're able to get the context. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have had really good education by Indian standard. I have done my bachelor's from IIT Delhi. I worked in the corporate sector. I did a master's from the IIT Delhi, and I worked in the corporate sector. Then I moved into academics for whatever reason. And then I wanted to do PhD. So I was fortunate to get, you get admission in universities in US and Canada, but money is the issue, so I got a scholarship. So I did my PhD from the University of Toronto, Canada. Now because of this, and then when I came back, I was a professor of marketing at IIM Lucknow. I was the dean of the Noida campus of the IIM Lucknow. So that's my broad background. Because of this, I'm very privy to sharing, being an active member of that group of people, professors, I'm a professor, who have been involved in research activities. I've seen professors in IIT Delhi who used to be our teachers. I'm very privileged to have some of those professors, excellent people, right? And I have seen professors at University of Toronto who were my teachers, and you would see a lot of Nobel laureates on the campus. I recollect time when I was in a canteen, a restaurant, and a friend of mine told me, look, that guy, he's a Nobel laureate. We didn't have cell phones, smartphones that time, otherwise I would have taken a selfie, maybe showed it to you. So I actually went to him, and I shook hands with him and sat with him. He offered me, would like to have coffee with me? I said, I would love to have coffee with you, and I sat with him, I had a coffee with him. Now imagine, you can't do that, right? And he was just down to earth, nobody knew him, right? On that day, at that time, there were 4 Nobel laureates, professors on the campus. I've come to IIM Lucknow. IIM Lucknow Government of India institutions, no limit on grants for research and anything, kind of research being done. Once I asked a professor colleague, in Hindi, I'll try to translate, I'll say it in English, there's no research agenda, you guys are not doing anything, right? And this was the background. I've just come back after a PhD. My PhD thesis was 125 pages, double spacing. Double spacing, 125 pages. I had 4 research publications out of that thesis, okay? Already international, what we call A and A star. In India, you do a PhD from, IIMs or the IIM Ahmedabad, whom we praise all the time. You have thick papers, voluminous things, and professor, no, itne chote mein PhD kaise hoga? 125 pages, double spacing is single spacing, 60 pages. 60 pages worth thesis, in India, if you submit, the guy would throw it, what nonsense it is, you guys are not working. So that's the mindset that we are in here today, right? And so you see voluminous papers. When I became a professor at IIM Lucknow, I received somebody who's known to me in India, university professors, not IIM or IIT, became friends. And the partner, I'll send you a PhD work for evaluation. So I got a paper, a thesis, which was this thick, at least 2,000 pages. It was in marketing, food chain marketing, so it came to me. And I had to report back saying this is copied material from ministry documents where the guy didn't even change the word like this ministry desires to do this was also written there. So this was the word. Now this is from a reputed university coming to a professor at IIM Lucknow. I rejected. And then I checked with the university because I wanted to know what has happened. The guy got the PhD and my recommendation was never received. Okay? So now the problem is when, as I say, in a society, when the professors become corrupt, the society is doomed, right? And we are in that situation today. Okay? And I have seen it very closely. It hurts me when I see a professor wanting to evaluate me, right? And says, oh, you know nothing about it. I said, oh yeah, I'm sorry, but I'll try to learn a lot after your feedback. And then I go and cross-check. That guy doesn't have a background in that domain. Why he is saying it? Because he is at a senior position. So in India, higher you go, you become more jnani, you are knowledgeable. Right? A director of an institution is supposed to know everything. What the hell? A vice chancellor is supposed to know everything. He can question a mathematics professor, a physics professor, a marketing professor, an IT professor and tell them you guys are doing nothing. It doesn't happen like that in the US. I have seen those professors. The dean would talk to a professor and say, well, I don't know about it. You tell me what do I do? And this is reflected in the governance of the country. In US, for example, a defense minister, what they call secretary, has a defense background. Education security has a background. In India, 77 years after independence, you have a minister in finance, in HRD or come what may, would have no background in those kinds of things. And that person is supposed to be very educated. This is not the current government. It's been there all along. And I became a minister, so I can question a professor, right, that you don't know this, you do it like this. I give sermonizing to a professor that you should operate like that, while the professor may be domain expert. So therefore, when you ask a professor in this kind of environment, please carry out quality research. This guy was first worried, what would my boss think about me if I don't do things nicely? So everything gets contained in that. And we are in that kind of environment. Even in the IITs and IIMs today, a lot of grants are being done. And, I asked a professor at IIM Lucknow, why research is not being done? You know what he says? And this is, and a lot of people think like that. Give me salary in dollars, what US professors gave, and then I will work accordingly. You give me salary in rupees, and so therefore I have to work like Indian. Now, what kind of logic is this? Now, there you give autonomy, you give grants, all that, but no increase in salary. Do you think the quality research will happen? No. So, therefore, why a quality research is there in the US and Europe and everywhere, and why not in India? Because of the ecosystem. They have the ecosystem, a conducive environment to carry out research, which is operating on pull mechanism, not on push mechanism. Here we have regulators, AICT, UGC and all that. They will tell you this is what you teach, right? Now, if I don't want to teach that, how can you improve the system? And I get angry. Who are you to tell me what to teach? You tell me to teach. In the classroom, I'm the boss. Right? Like a professor in IIM Lucknow was being forced that the placement feedback is like this, you are not covering this kind of content in the course. You must cover this content in the course. He was trying to justify that this is not required. You do it in another course. But the faculty council said, and I am sitting there, as a member of the faculty, and he's sitting next to me, that's how I know it. And then he agreed, theek hai, I'll do it. And then he tells me on the side, Das boss, class में तो मैं वही पढ़ाऊंगा ना जो मुझे आता है. I'll teach only those things which I know. So how can you force a professor to do research or teach? You cannot. So you have to have the pull environment to make it happen. US has it, Europe has it, most of Europe, China has it now. Though don't speak English, China is far, far ahead as far as research is concerned. Look at the data on research publications by China. In English journals published from Europe and US, they are 4 times bigger than India. Right? This is shameful. And still we have not woken up. And we are trying to allocate this money. Okay, we identify, you do a research. That guy is not hungry. So therefore we need to identify who are the people who are hungry, set criteria for hungriness, and then you bring in the policy. In US, for example, a professor recruited as assistant professor, this guy has to have 3 what we call A category internationally also, A category publication for this guy to become an associate professor. हमारे associate professor कैसे बनते हैं? वो I remember Jaswal Bhatti's jokes कि घर पे आना तो कोहनी से घंटी बजाना. Call button with a what do you call it, elbow. This is elbow. So क्यों? Because you will have a mithai dabba in your hand. You see, so in that kind of environment, how can you expect? Professors and who's destroying the system? Professors. You see, so in India, assistant professors, associate to professor, professor to maybe directors or vice chancellors, wherever. When the decision makers have no control on or no accountability on the system, then this guy will do all those kinds of things. Come with mithai dabba. If the performance of FORE school goes down, I am accountable. Right? Immediately. You look at the director of one of the IIMs, if the performance of IIM go down, would you hold a IIM director accountable? Thoda bahut. How about the board of IIMs being held accountable for non-performance in IIM? Nothing. Who takes a decision on recruitment, promotion and everything? The board members. If it is a private sector, university, if the university performance goes down, board members are accountable. Right? In a government, they're not accountable. So, since they're not accountable, right, then they'll decide based on their own pecuniary conditions, requirements and preferences and everything. So degradation of quality will start happening there. You extend that argument further. You go to the government ministry level, go to the, the top level. Now, a minister may decide on something that isko VC lagao, isko director lagao, isko ye position do, all that. If the performance goes down, would that minister be held accountable? No. So what would be the criteria which would be used by the minister to appoint a person? Some pecuniary background, oh, mera bhai hai, bhatija hai, ye, we, all that kind of thing. This is the environment we are operating in India today. So therefore, talking of this, talking of how do we make India as a research hub is ludicrous idea today unless we change this. At best, and I wrote an article, popular articles I write sometimes. There was a recent article in Financial Express in India on this government giving 10,000 crore allocation for national importance. And the idea is that we can still achieve a lot. It's not that everything is gone. All we require is to operate objectively. So you want to bring in a international level quality research, you set the criteria. Don't have this distinction of government versus private, which Dr. Agrawal said already. The moment you do government versus private, everything goes topsy-turvy, right? If you were to look at IMA's performance, and privy to having taught there as a faculty, as a visiting faculty for 3 years, and interacted with them. If you were to measure the performance of IMA with some of the top-ranking international universities, they grossly underperform, right? And while we say this is one of the best that we have. Why is this happening? Because of all those kinds of things. So we need to look at criteria. We need to look at how do we balance things out. Have no distinction on private or government. IIMs are a different entity than, let's say, Mangalam University. Why should it be like this? So you make criteria. US has private universities. There is no distinction. Private universities are doing excellently well because the criteria are the same for private or a public university in the US. You perform, you go up. You don't perform, you perish. In India, IIM hai, so no questions asked. और मंगलम में तो ये जरा डॉक्यूमेंट तो वो हमारे यहाँ 3-4 वो क्या बोलते हैं वो एसटी की जो कमेटी आती है आपके यहाँ वो 2-3 हो गए 34 भी आ रहा था देन आई हैड टू राइट अ लेटर कि 3 तो अभी कर चुके हो यार अब एक और क्या कराओगे एंड यू पे फॉर इट right? So the governance has to change and we must operate objectively and put those criteria in place, not private versus government. You meet this criteria, you get this grant. You don't meet this criteria, you don't need this grant. Matter. The rules and regulations should be common for all. Why a different rule for IIM and different rule for IIT and different rule for Mangalam University? What is this? I mean, this is absurd. So that's the way we need to look at it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your thought-provoking talk and enlightening us with your real-time stories about the education system.